Hey everyone, my name is David Dunbar, or the theme park evangelist. So I'm back at home again. Can't really say why, just personal reasons, maybe even medical reasons. But anyway, so today I wanted to talk to you guys about the rise and fall of the American Idol experience that used to be at Disney's Hollywood Studios prior to Frozen Sing Along Celebration, and right after um, Doug Live was like gone, basically. And you might be like wondering, so like, why are we talking about the rise and fall of the American Idol experience? Well, personally, I had an emotional attachment to it. I always enjoy the show personally. So, without further ado, we're going to go right into it. So, it would be obviously a lot cooler if I use my phone, but I decided I'm going to go ahead and use my laptop instead because it's easier for you guys to see me fully in the laptop versus um, on my phone. It's a lot harder for you guys to see me, but at the same time, at least I could have used clips from the American Idol experience to demonstrate my point. So, unfortunately, my laptop does not have the editing software. Well, to make a long story short with the American Idol experience, it opened about '05 or so, and guests could go into this really cool theater, and in fact, I might even use that as my thumbnail. And you basically would sit down at a seat, and to your right there was an armrest that had like buttons on it. You could vote for whichever contestant you wanted to vote for, and all the votes would electronically go towards the stage. And they did like several shows a day, and these were the people that competed were actual Disney guests that decided I'm gonna go to Disney World, or they would go to Disney World and see, oh, cool, that you can audition for the American Idol experience. So they would go right in and they would put on an audition. If they did well enough, then they would get to put on a show, and throughout the day. And then if they did really well, like if they beat out the other two contestants or whatever, then they would go to this very final show at the end of the day. And whoever, only one person, if whoever won that show at the end of the day, would get to go off and basically skip the line for the actual American Idol show. So it basically was a good way to kind of experience a tease or a taste of the American Idol. And I was a huge fan of the American Idol for a very long time. And I personally thought that the American Idol experience was done very well. Actually, in the top right hand corner, I'm going to go ahead and attach from the Attractions magazine the full show, so you guys can see it for yourselves. So it'll be right there at the 4 minute mark. But honestly, I really was so excited to see it. They really got interactive with the guests, like right as you were about to go in the theater, and I honestly saw the show a lot, and they got interactive with the guests. And inside, I always loved the song "I Got the Music in Me," and they always try to get different guest interactions while you were in the show. Um, I always just loved watching everybody come up and try to compete for the show. I mean, it was so similar to the actual American Idol. This was back when Disney's Hollywood Studios was still in their golden age, you could say, because they still had the Lights, Murders, Actions back when the Great Movie Ride was still there. This was back when the Backlot Tour was still there. I personally thought that's when Hollywood Studios was at its prime. And Tower of Terror had been fully revamped at that point. Rock and Roller Coaster was not having any issues. Star Wars Weekends was still around. There was a lot of things going for Hollywood Studios at the time. If I remember correctly, even Pizza Planet was still there at that time. So I really felt like just 2005 or so is when the American Idol experience was just doing extremely well. The reason why they decided to bring the American Idol experience to Disney's Hollywood Studios in the first place is because it was doing so well on ABC at the time, and since Disney owns the rights to ABC, they decided, well, why not make a live version? Who Wants to Be a Millionaire played it so well before American Idol experience came in that they decided, well, let's recreate Who Wants to Be a Million. Sorry, the American Idol experience, or let's recreate Who American Idol or whatever. They already did a really good job of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire played. If you guys are not familiar, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is another ABC show where you got a hot seat and then you got the host seat, and the contestant has to get all the way to the $1 million question. So you got 15 questions. You got like 30 seconds or so per question. You got three lifelines. You got the audience, ask the audience, phone a friend, and then 50-50. And then, of course, on the actual show these days, they got the double dip. So the lifeline, of course, back in the day when Who Wants to Be a Millionaire played it first existed, they only had the three lifelines. And that show eventually did pull out because not enough people, I guess, were going up. And then when American Idol Experience first came in, people were auditioning left, right, and center. I mean, it was doing really, really well. So you might ask, so what happened? American Idol just started deteriorating over the years. And I think with the American Idol just losing its popularity, the American Idol Experience started losing its popularity. And I mean, I was going there up until like basically its last days, and I noticed that it was harder and harder for them to find contestants. The shows were not filling up as quickly as they used to. They were also struggling to get people filled up in the last show. Like the last show back in the day when I first started going to it, we're talking back in '05 or so. They were like really, really filling up the last show quickly, and it was one of those like, oh man, I hope I get in kind of deal. And then if you did get in, you're like, yes, I accomplished something here. So eventually Disney knew that American Idol Experience was not going to last very much longer, and ironically, it was kind of perfect timing because around the time the American Idol Experience started to fade away was right around the time that Frozen came out. So Frozen came out in 2013. I had just graduated from high school earlier that year, and of course it blew up no time. And Disney was like, well, Frozen's really, really good, and of course it's a musical, you could say, so they decided around 2014, 2015, around that time period, that American Idol Experience had to go. There was like basically no ands, ifs, or buts. American Idol Experience had to go around that time period, so they made their decision that we're going to get rid of it. They didn't know exactly what they were going to do at the show at that time. They just knew they had to get rid of it. So they basically announced the official last day of the American Idol Experience. Honestly, I don't feel like a lot of people were that depressed to see it go, but at the same time, a lot of people were still kind of emotional about it, like I was. And the show did eventually closed down. Honestly, I remember for the longest time it was just sitting there, not being used. It was like a year at least that the show was just sitting there, not doing anything. It was ridiculous. I started working for Walt Disney World in 2017. I know for a fact that sometime between 2015 and 2016, Disney finally figured out what to put in there, and of course, took them like no time at all. So, all they literally did was redo the stage inside and change it to a Frozen theme. They kept the pre-show area pretty much the same. Honestly, that pre-show area where Doug Live was, and of course before that it was Monsters or the Monster Sounds stage Monster Stage Show. Wow, I cannot talk. I was getting really tongue tied there. And then of course it was American Idol Experience, and now it's Frozen. So yes, the whole area has gone through quite a bit of changes from my understanding. So yeah, that whole pre-show at least has stayed the same, but the stage inside is the only thing that they've really had to change. But if you really think about it, there really wasn't a lot of work for them to do inside. It was one of those like just quick retheme and you're all done. I think the American Idol experience was probably the fanciest thing, but even then, the American Idol um, logo was all digitalized and all that. Um, Frozen, I feel like that could easily be replaced at any given time. There really was not a lot of work put into that at all. But at the same time, since it's always a popular show every single time, and the kids, especially the girls, absolutely love it. And of course, Frozen is one of those shows that's just good for even teenage girls and adult girls. I feel like Frozen's just not going to go anywhere anytime soon. But needless to say, that the early 2010s is kind of when Frozen just, or well, not Frozen, but the American Idol experience just went downhill altogether. It was just like, that's it, it's done. I could talk about other attractions as well. If you guys really liked this, there are other attractions that have gone away within the past decade or so. Like Test Track got revamped, and I would like to talk about that sometime because, especially since I work there, um, I would even like to talk about Sounds Dangerous. I'm sure everybody remembers that one. I used to go on that one all of the time. I could even talk about the Osborne lights. I think that's another one that everybody would like to hear about. Why did Disney get rid of that? I mean, it's obvious to make way for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, but is there more to it than that? Um, why did Disney decide to get Flurry of Fun in its place? I could even talk about. Let's see here. Oh yes, Wonders of Light Pavilion. Why Disney decided to close that? Why Disney even decided that we're going to go ahead and all together just rip out the festival center out of it? Why is Disney putting a Moana attraction and now finally after all these years? Why has Disney allowed that whole area to sit there vacant? And why did Disney rush to replace the Universe of Energy as quickly as they did, but not the Wonders of Life Pavilion? So, I mean, these are all questions I'm sure that any Disney fanatic is probably thinking about, and I would love to answer it for you. So, just let me know in the comments below, and I might even stop and think about it. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and get this uploaded to YouTube, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do another How I Met Kay and TJ YouTube video. Since I got this free time, I'm going to try to get it done in the next week or so, and hopefully the whole entire series, and that way come February 1st or whatever, I can just go ahead and get going on the next YouTube series, because I promised that by February, no matter what, it's going to start not any earlier. February 1st, The absolute earliest is when it's going to start. So be looking for my high school days, my next YouTube series next month, and always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great day. Peace out.